My dear friends, have you ever found yourself gazing out the window, perhaps in a quiet moment, and pondered the ultimate mystery that awaits us all? We've all heard stories, seen countless films, and perhaps even held on to beliefs passed down through generations about what happens after our time on Earth comes to an end. But what if I told you that the truth, especially about those very first moments after we pass, is far more profound, intimate, and frankly astonishing than anything you've ever imagined? A truth that has been whispered by some, yet rarely spoken aloud, leaving so many of us to wonder in silence. Today, we're going to pull back that veil and explore a truly remarkable vision, one brought to us by the famed sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce, whose extraordinary insights reveal what actually unfolds in that critical first day after death. Prepare to have your understanding of life's greatest transition transformed, because what he described is not a distant judgment, but an immediate, intensely personal experience that will change how you view everything right here, right now. According to the profound visions of Edgar Cayce, this initial period right after death, specifically within those first 24 hours, unveils truths about human existence that are often ignored or misunderstood. It's a reality that challenges our comfortable Hollywood fantasies, and even some of the deeply held beliefs many of us grew up with. Cayce revealed that instead of a swift journey to a predetermined heaven or hell, the experience is far more personal, yet profoundly unsettling. The soul doesn't instantly depart the world it has known. Quite the opposite, it actually lingers. In these crucial initial hours, the soul remains drawn to its familiar surroundings, perhaps hovering close to its own physical body, or drifting through the very home it once inhabited, observing family members in their grief. The truly remarkable and perhaps startling aspect is that this consciousness persists. The soul can still perceive faces, hear voices, and feel emotions, yet it exists in a state where it cannot touch or be touched by anything in the physical world. Can you imagine the profound shock of trying to call out to your dearest loved ones, only to realize that no one can hear you, that your presence is utterly unseen? This, Cayce suggested, is the soul's very first powerful lesson after death, a moment that compels it to confront a reality we seldom ponder during our lives, the profound truth that we are not our physical bodies. For an entire lifetime, we often equate our very identity with our gestures, our spoken words, and our tangible physical presence. Yet, in a single sudden instant, all of that dissolves. What endures is pure awareness, raw, completely unfiltered, and undeniably present. As Cayce described, many souls, bewildered, even ask themselves, am I truly dead? If I can still think and see, am I not still me? This initial confusion isn't meant as a punishment. Rather, it's a natural, pivotal awakening, marking the sacred commencement of a soul's transition from the limitations of the physical world into something immeasurably grander and more expansive. Delving deeper into Cayce's profound visions, one of the most unexpected revelations in these initial hours after death is the realization that the soul isn't instantly whisked away into some distant, unfamiliar dimension. On the contrary, it gently drifts through the very spaces it knew most intimately during life. The familiar rooms of a home, the serene beauty of a garden, the bustling streets, and even the warmth of a kitchen where countless family meals were lovingly shared. But here lies an even more astonishing detail. The soul doesn't merely see, it also hears. Every soft, whispered memory, every heart-wrenching cry of grief, and even the casual or sometimes careless words exchanged around the departed body, none of it passes by unnoticed. Cayce compellingly suggested that those who have just passed are often very much present at their own funerals or vigils, quietly, invisibly observing every moment. Take a moment to truly imagine that, envisioning your closest loved one standing silently beside you, listening to your every word. This concept might stir an unsettling feeling within us, yet it carries a profoundly important message for how we live our lives now. Consider how frequently families, perhaps unknowingly, use a funeral as an occasion, even a stage, to resolve long-held grudges or to finally utter words of love that have remained tragically unspoken until it seems too late. Yet, according to Casey, it is never too late for the soul to hear these sentiments. While the living may not consciously respond, the departed soul absorbs and registers every single sentiment expressed. This remarkable insight truly prompts us to pause and reflect. What precise words would we truly wish our loved ones to hear from us in that delicate in-between space after we've passed? Would it be heavy silence, deep regrets, or rather cherished words of gratitude and heartfelt forgiveness? If Casey's insights hold true, then the very atmosphere we cultivate during these intensely emotional moments has a direct, tangible impact on the soul's very first experiences beyond the threshold of death. Furthermore, this perspective compels us to reconsider our understanding of legacy. Life, in this view, is not ultimately remembered by accumulated possessions or impressive titles, but by the enduring echoes of how we truly treated others, the genuine kindness we offered, the gentle patience we showed, and the boundless love we openly expressed. In that pivotal first day, the soul is brought face to face with this profound truth, not as an abstract concept, but as a vivid, lived reality. Thus, the act of bidding farewell becomes much more than a ritual solely for the living. It transforms into the soul's first powerful mirror, unflinchingly reflecting the deep connections it fostered, or, regrettably, failed to cultivate during its time on Earth. Casey's descriptions further reveal that during these initial hours, the soul does not remain a mere passive observer. Rather, it often actively endeavors to bridge the ever-widening chasm between its new spiritual realm and the world it just departed. Driven by profound instinct and undoubtedly by love, it instinctively reaches out toward the cherished people it once connected with so deeply. Indeed, countless families throughout history have recounted experiencing peculiar sensations soon after a loved one's passing. An inexplicable chill suddenly filling a room, the fleeting, almost imperceptible brush against one's skin, or even a soft whisper heard within the mind that appears to materialize from thin air. Casey believed with conviction that these weren't mere coincidences or products of an overactive imagination, but legitimate, heartfelt attempts by the soul to communicate its continuing presence and comfort. Just imagine this for a moment from the soul's fresh perspective. You witness your beloved family consumed by sorrow, and an overwhelming desire fills you to console them, to lovingly say, "I'm still right here. Please don't cry." Yet, despite every earnest effort, the profound truth sinks in that most cannot hear you. The invisible yet utterly unyielding barrier between the physical and spiritual planes stands firm. The soul is then gently, often painfully, brought to the realization that it no longer belongs in the tangible world in the same manner it once did. While this recognition is undoubtedly a sorrowful one, it is also crucially essential. Casey termed this a fundamental first step towards acceptance, emphasizing that to cling desperately to the old world would only intensify its confusion and distress. To consciously release that attachment is, in essence, to begin its true expansive journey forward. But for us who are still living, a subtle yet powerful lesson emerges from this. If our dearly departed truly remained so incredibly close in those tender first hours, what profound significance would it hold for us to cultivate our own sensitivity, to open our hearts wide enough to truly feel their ethereal presence? Certain ancient cultures have long held the belief that the veil between worlds becomes exceptionally thin at the moment of death, a profound idea that Casey's readings beautifully echo. Even so, he offered a gentle caution. Regrettably, few of us are ever truly trained to listen or attuned to these delicate energetic shifts. Most people, understandably, are too deeply immersed in their own profound grief or gripped by disbelief to fully perceive these subtle, tender signs. And so, despite its loving efforts, the soul eventually comes to understand that it cannot and should not remain forever bound to this physical world. It is precisely in this pivotal moment of release that a far grander vision begins to unfold. A truth, Casey noted, that virtually every soul must inevitably encounter. For Edgar Cayce, the single most profound event to unfold during those crucial first 24 hours after death isn't merely the act of observing grieving loved ones. It's the deeply personal, often startling experience of facing oneself utterly without disguise. He painted a vivid picture of this moment as standing before an uncompromising, unforgiving mirror. Throughout our earthly lives, it's remarkably easy to conceal our true selves behind daily routines, demanding jobs, or various social roles and expectations. We frequently define our identity by our outward appearance, our professional successes, or simply by how others perceive us. Yet, in that instantaneous transition when the body is shed, so too are all these masks. What remains is pure, unadorned consciousness. In this utterly transparent state, Cayce explained, the soul is compelled to gaze directly upon who it authentically became during its earthly journey. This isn't a formal judgment administered by some external stern authority. Instead, it is a profound inward unveiling. The soul begins, with astonishing clarity, to recall every choice it made, every intention that secretly guided its actions, and every single word it regretfully left unsaid. Forgotten memories, along with the quiet, sometimes hidden motives behind our deeds, all rise vividly to the surface. In what feels like an instant, the entire panorama of a life is no longer a blurred passage of years, but a meticulously woven tapestry of decisions, laid bare and utterly undeniable. Cayce passionately emphasized that what truly shocks the soul in this moment is not the loss of wealth or the fading of reputation or the disappearance of worldly achievements, for these vanish almost immediately into insignificance. What genuinely matters, what persistently remains visible in that soul's mirror, is the enduring quality of how we treated other people. Did we extend compassion when it was most desperately needed? Did we conduct ourselves with unwavering honesty? And perhaps most crucially, did we consciously choose love even when it presented the hardest path? For some souls, this profound revelation brings an overwhelming sense of peace and even deep joy, a comforting recognition that their life, though perhaps imperfect, was imbued with profound meaning and purpose. For others, however, it can be a deeply painful confrontation, as the stark weight of neglected opportunities or the impact of selfish choices becomes absolutely impossible to ignore. Yet, regardless of the individual experience, Cayce steadfastly insisted that this powerful confrontation with truth is inherently transformative. It truly marks the soul's very first genuine awakening beyond death, serving as a critical turning point that thoroughly prepares it for the subsequent journey into higher, more enlightened realms of existence. When Cayce spoke of this powerful self-revelation, he made one point unequivocally clear: the soul holds no impression for the mere trophies of earthly life. Grand titles, material possessions, and fleeting social victories all dissolve into nothingness almost instantly. What endures, what shines forth with far greater simplicity and immense power, is solely the quality of love we both gave and gratefully received. In those pivotal first 24 hours, the soul perceives not only the grand monumental moments of its life, but also the countless small gestures that often seemed utterly insignificant at the time. A single kind word offered to a stranger, a moment of gentle patience extended to a child, the profound act of forgiveness in a difficult situation. These selfless acts illuminate like bright, intricate threads woven into the fabric of the soul's eternal memory. Conversely, acts of indifference or moments of cruelty, even the most subtle ones, echo back with startling, undeniable clarity. This profound realization, though it can be deeply painful, is simultaneously incredibly liberating. Painful, certainly, because it strips away every single excuse we ever harbored, yet liberating because it reveals that the true, profound meaning of life was never as complicated or elusive as we often made it out to be. It was never about the vastness of our possessions or the height of our worldly ascent, but fundamentally about whether we genuinely learned to love. Casey firmly insisted that this compelling vision was never intended to instill fear, but rather to inspire a profound awakening. If every single soul is destined to one day face this unerring mirror, then the crucial question for us, here and now, becomes, how do we genuinely want to feel when that inevitable moment arrives? Will we look back with an abiding sense of peace and fulfillment, or will we be burdened by the heavy weight of regret? The answer, Casey suggested with gentle wisdom, is quite literally being inscribed right now in each and every choice we make today. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, plants a potent seed of light that will unfailingly follow us beyond death. Conversely, every selfish act, every missed opportunity for compassion creates a shadow we will eventually be called to confront. Ultimately, the first day after death is when the soul begins to see with perfect clarity what it has truly sown during its life and precisely what it has lovingly left undone. Following the initial, sometimes startling self-revelation, Casey's wisdom suggests the soul then gracefully transitions into a quieter yet equally profound phase of its journey. Initially, there's an almost overwhelming attachment to the physical body left behind, to the cherished home, and to the beloved people it has just departed from. However, as those precious hours gently slip by, a subtle yet persistent sensation begins to stir within, an invisible pull, an undeniable call to begin moving forward. This compelling summons is not a harsh physical tug. Instead, it resonates more like a deeply embedded memory resurfacing, as if the soul suddenly recalls with comforting certainty that there exists another profound place where it truly belongs. For some, this sensation manifests as an overwhelming wave of peace, while others describe hearing the faint, beloved voices of loved ones who passed before them. Still others might feel themselves tenderly enveloped in an all-encompassing presence, as if unseen, gentle hands are lovingly guiding their way. Not every soul, of course, responds in precisely the same manner. Some readily embrace this ethereal pull, moving towards it with an innate trust and serene acceptance. Yet others understandably hesitate, clinging desperately to the familiar comforts of the material world, often unwilling to relinquish their grasp on family, possessions, or lingering unfinished earthly business. It resists the stark truth, wandering amongst familiar places, lingering near loved ones, and in some cases, even attempting to re-enter the departed body. Some souls, Casey recounted, hover in a state of deep confusion, genuinely unable to accept that their life chapter has definitively closed. And yet, even amidst this profound struggle, something utterly extraordinary begins to pierce through the resistance, tantalizing glimpses of a comforting light. It might appear as a soft, inviting glow in the distant horizon, or as a radiant, luminous figure that feels both incredibly intimate and boundlessly immense. Some describe it as hearing their name spoken with an encompassing perfect love. Others sense an embrace, not with arms, but with presence. This gentle light, Casey taught, is never forced upon the soul. It waits patiently, extending a loving invitation but never exerting coercion. It represents the profound calling of the higher realms, a tender reminder that life, in its truest essence, does not merely end here. For countless souls, these very first encounters with this light gently dissolve denial, replacing fear with an overwhelming sense of awe and wonder. Still, not every soul steps towards it immediately. Some continue to linger, perhaps reluctant to fully face the mirror of truth, or hesitant to leave their still grieving family behind. Casey beautifully compared this to a weary traveler standing at the precipice of a grand journey, momentarily hesitating before taking that decisive first step onto an unknown road. But the light remains unwavering, a steady luminous beacon that unerringly draws the soul forward, promising that beyond this gentle threshold lies not emptiness or oblivion, but a reality immeasurably greater. Slowly, yet inevitably, the vast majority of souls gracefully turn toward it. For within that luminous light, they begin to profoundly recognize something deeply familiar, the undeniable echo of their true eternal home. As the soul, according to Casey, gradually softens its denial and gently turns towards this welcoming light, an extraordinary and deeply sacred transition truly begins. The fear of painful separation gently gives way to a profound sense of purposeful movement, as if drifting gently yet being tenderly carried. The soul is never abandoned to wander aimlessly, rather it is lovingly met. Casey described that guiding presences often materialize, sometimes as beloved family members who passed on earlier, offering comforting familiarity, and at other times as radiant, luminous beings the soul may not consciously recognize, yet who instill an instant, profound sense of trust. Their purpose is beautifully simple: to reassure the soul that it is never truly alone and to gently lead it towards its next profound stage of existence. For many, the unexpected presence of familiar loved ones brings immediate and immense relief. This reunion dissolves any lingering fear, lovingly reminding the soul that the eternal bonds of love are never, ever broken by death. For others, guides might appear as magnificent beings of pure light or as wise teachers who emanate an undeniable serene authority. These encounters, Casey stressed, are far from random. They precisely reflect the specific needs and the unique readiness of each individual soul. Casey fervently emphasized that no two transitions are ever exactly alike. A deeply spiritual person might feel an immediate sense of being utterly at home, while a soul perhaps more entangled in material concerns might navigate this process with a little more time and introspection. Yet, the underlying pattern remains universally true. Loving guidance always comes. This deeply insightful stage also illuminates another fundamental truth. The soul's awareness significantly expands beyond the narrow confines of earthly time. Moments stretch, impressions deepen, and the soul begins to distinctly sense that it is stepping into a grand dimension where thought and intention hold vastly greater weight and power than any physical form. Still, there is an inherent gentleness to this entire process. The soul is never forced to abruptly leap into an overwhelming, all-encompassing reality all at once. Instead, it is gradually and lovingly introduced in ways it can comfortably handle to the higher, profound currents of eternal existence. These guiding presences, in essence, serve as tender bridges, making the initially unfamiliar feel remarkably and profoundly like home. And so, the extraordinary journey continues, not as a conclusive end, but as a glorious new beginning. As the soul is tenderly guided deeper into the profound mysteries of the afterlife, Casey's extraordinary insights reveal it enters a deeply significant stage of purposeful learning. The initial warmth of reunion and comforting guidance is not the final destination, but rather a gentle preparation for intense reflection. Here, the soul is lovingly shown not only the actions it took during its earthly life, but also, with startling clarity, what it regrettably left undone. This is emphatically not judgment in the earthly punitive sense, for there is no external judge issuing sentences. Instead, the soul itself becomes its own compassionate witness. With its newly expanded awareness, it perceives, with perfect clarity, the opportunities it inadvertently ignored, the acts of kindness it withheld, or the lingering fears that regrettably prevented its full spiritual growth. Each missed chance is felt with an immediate and profound understanding, as if the soul finally grasps the intricate ripple effects of its every choice. For some, this intense recognition can be quite painful, yet Casey steadfastly insisted that it is also deeply merciful. Its ultimate purpose is not to condemn, but profoundly to awaken. The soul begins to clearly see recurring patterns it has carried, sometimes across many lifetimes. The same lessons repeating themselves, the same struggles persistently resurfacing. In this profound moment of clarity, it starts to truly grasp why it was born into particular circumstances and specific relationships. Casey drew an insightful comparison to a student carefully reviewing a test, not to dwell despairingly on mistakes, but to meticulously prepare for future mastery. The soul realizes, with renewed understanding, that Earth served as an essential classroom, and every challenge encountered was a perfectly tailored assignment designed for its unique growth. If it unfortunately failed one particular lesson, it will, without fail, be given the opportunity to face it again, not as a punishment, but as a precious chance for growth. This pivotal stage also unveils another profound truth. Life's unfinished purposes are never, ever wasted. The love we may have withheld, the forgiveness we perhaps avoided, the talents we sadly never fully utilized, these all remain as vital seeds, patiently waiting for another sacred chance to blossom. The afterlife, in Casey's vision, reveals them not to shame us, but to tenderly remind us that spiritual growth is, by its very nature, eternal. And so, the soul earnestly prepares itself. It begins to sense, with growing conviction, that its expansive journey is not merely about leaving Earth, but profoundly about readying itself to joyfully return, this time more aware, more purposefully aligned, and beautifully connected with the divine light. Casey's teachings further explain that after the soul has deeply reflected upon its life and its myriad lessons, a natural and powerful question inevitably arises. Where do I go from here? This is where the profound mystery of reincarnation gracefully comes into play. According to Casey, the soul is never coerced or blindly thrust into another body. Instead, it is gently yet powerfully drawn by the eternal laws of spiritual harmony and inherent growth. In simplest terms, the soul naturally gravitates toward the precise circumstances that will best allow it to meticulously continue its unfinished lessons and pursue its highest growth. If it perhaps struggled with an earthly pride, it may, in its wisdom, choose a more humble station in its next incarnation. If it withheld compassion, it may enter a life where it directly receives the very love it once denied. This act of choosing is not always conscious in the limited way we understand earthly decisions. It is more akin to a profound resonance. The soul vibrates with certain deep needs, and those very needs organically attract the family, culture, and specific environment where its next phase of growth can beautifully unfold. While spiritual guides lovingly assist in this intricate process, helping the soul perceive various options and pathways, ultimately, the profound alignment comes from within. Casey firmly emphasized that reincarnation is never a cycle of punishment, but rather an ongoing, magnificent cycle of endless opportunity. Each return to Earth is another precious classroom, another glorious chance to humbly transform weakness into enduring strength and to ceaselessly deepen one's capacity for love. What may outwardly appear as fate or pure accident in earthly terms is, at the soul's elevated level, a profoundly purposeful and intricate arrangement. Remarkably, Casey also noted that souls sometimes choose to wait between incarnations, not due to delay, but for essential preparation. Some linger gracefully in the spiritual realms to gather renewed strength or to lovingly support those who are still living on earth. Others return with eager quickness, driven by an urgent desire to courageously face what they left undone. In all cases, the process is guided by a simple, overarching truth: the soul is eternal, and earth is its sacred training ground. Each incarnation represents a vital step forward in the long, winding journey back to complete and perfect unity with the divine. One of Casey's most striking and comforting revelations was the unwavering truth that the soul is never, ever coerced. Even in the brilliant glow of the afterlife, surrounded by boundless light and loving guidance, the soul staunchly retains its divine gift of free will. This sacred freedom is paramount. It allows for immeasurable growth, but it also permits resistance. Some souls, Casey explained, move with an eager and open heart toward new lessons. They readily recognize their past missteps and feel profoundly motivated to return to Earth with a beautifully renewed purpose. These courageous souls embrace challenges as precious opportunities, deeply understanding that pain and struggle are never punishments, but rather vital stepping stones towards acquiring greater wisdom. Others, however, choose to resist. They may stubbornly cling to old desires, unwilling to genuinely release patterns of greed, anger, or deep-seated fear. Such souls sometimes consciously choose to delay their own spiritual progress, lingering in spiritual realms without actively moving forward. In more extreme cases, Casey describes souls who repeatedly made the very same mistakes across many lifetimes, thereby creating what we commonly refer to as karma. But even this concept of karma, he assured, is never an act of vengeance. It is simply the natural, resonant echo of choice, returning faithfully until the soul ultimately learns its essential lesson. What is most profoundly reassuring in Casey's beautiful teaching is that no soul is ever truly lost. While resistance may certainly slow spiritual growth, it can never extinguish the divine spark that burns eternally within. Even the most stubborn soul will eventually gently turn toward the light, because the intrinsic hunger for complete unity with the Creator is beautifully woven into its very essence. This profound freedom also gracefully explains the vast and often perplexing differences we observe in humanity on earth. Some individuals are born possessing wisdom far beyond their apparent years, carrying lessons mastered long ago. Others grapple repeatedly with the very same struggles, still diligently working through them across multiple incarnations. Life, though it may not appear outwardly equal, is perfectly just in its ultimate spiritual purpose. Each soul is precisely where it lovingly needs to be. Casey's compassionate vision beautifully reframes life's perceived hardships. Instead of seeing them as punishments, they transform into profound invitations. Every difficulty encountered gently whispers, "Here, dear soul, lies your next vital step." Whether we choose to resist or graciously accept this invitation remains our sacred choice, but the grand eternal journey ultimately truly belongs to each of us. For Edgar Casey, the single most potent force shaping the soul's immense journey was profoundly intertwined with love, particularly as it found expression through selfless service. He frequently imparted the wisdom that true spiritual growth is not merely measured by accumulated knowledge alone, but by the depth and breadth of how much one genuinely lives for the betterment of others. In the illuminating clarity of the afterlife, souls unmistakably perceive that every act of kindness, no matter how seemingly small or insignificant, becomes an indelible thread of luminous light meticulously woven into their eternal essence. A gentle, reassuring word, a moment of enduring patience, a heartfelt sacrifice made for another's well-being. These precious actions are never lost in the hurried blur of time. Instead, they become an integral part of the soul's eternal memory, powerfully shaping and guiding its forward trajectory. Service, Casey eloquently emphasized, is not fundamentally about grand, theatrical gestures, but rather about the pureness of underlying intention. A life quietly imbued with deep compassion, he suggested, may profoundly advance a soul more significantly than a life teeming with impressive earthly achievements but containing little genuine love. What truly matters is whether one acts with unwavering sincerity and a deep, inherent desire to genuinely alleviate another's burden. This, he taught, is precisely why love is universally regarded as the ultimate and foundational law of spiritual growth. In serving others, the soul beautifully aligns itself with its divine, originating source. Conversely, in withholding love, the soul, perhaps unknowingly, creates unnecessary delay in its spiritual progress. Casey fervently urged that even amidst our daily struggles and challenges, abundant opportunities for service exist everywhere, within the embrace of our families, the fabric of our communities, and even in the simplest, most profound moments of truly listening or offering genuine forgiveness. These choices, made with open hearts, ripple far beyond the confines of earth, diligently preparing the soul for greater harmony and peace in the afterlife, and ensuring a smoother, more purposeful passage into future lives. In essence, love and dedicated service act as powerful accelerators for the soul's journey. They gracefully dissolve karmic weight and, with incredible swiftness, open the soul more readily to higher, more expansive realms of awareness. Where selfishness tragically binds, love ultimately liberates. Where fear subtly delays, service bravely propels. Through these conscious acts, the soul moves steadily, with unwavering purpose, toward its ultimate and magnificent destiny, a glorious reunion with the divine source from which it first beautifully emerged. Casey often thoughtfully reminded his listeners that all the trials, the numerous incarnations, and the myriad lessons of love encountered throughout existence inexorably point to one singular, transcendent purpose: the soul's ultimate, complete reunion with its divine source. Every profound challenge, every selfless act of service, every precious lifetime lived is, in truth, a vital step along the long, winding path back to God. In this encompassing vision, the afterlife is revealed not merely as a quiescent resting place, but rather as a dynamic way station. It thoughtfully grants the soul a deeper perspective, illuminating what has been lovingly learned, what regretfully remains unfinished, and what divine direction now compellingly calls it forward. Yet, transcending all these discernible stages lies an even higher, more sublime destiny, a state of complete, unblemished unity with the Creator. This profound unity, Casey thoughtfully explained, is not a painful loss of individual identity, but rather its glorious fulfillment. Just as a solitary drop of water, when returned to the vast, boundless ocean, does not cease to exist, but lovingly becomes an integral part of something infinitely vaster, so too the soul beautifully retains its unique essence while seamlessly joining the greater, divine whole. Along this magnificent journey, souls may lovingly ascend through various spiritual realms, each one more luminous, more harmonious, and more exquisitely beautiful than the last. These are not static heavens of unchanging bliss, but rather vibrant spheres of continuous growth, devoted service, and boundless creative expression. The higher the soul courageously climbs, the more crystalline and clear its inherent purpose becomes: to eloquently reflect divine love in every single action, every profound thought, and every inspired creation. Ultimately, the true destiny of the soul, as Casey envisioned it, is not a simple escape from the earthly plane, but a profound transformation, a transfiguration of both the individual self and the world around it through the pervasive power of love. In returning to God, the soul does not abandon creation. Instead, it actively helps to lovingly uplift and elevate it. For Casey, this served as the great comforting reassurance. No matter the perceived length of the journey or the number of detours encountered along the way, every single soul will, in its own perfect divine timing, find its way back home. As we gently bring this exploration of Edgar Casey's timeless vision of the afterlife to a thoughtful close, a truly powerful truth profoundly emerges. Life, in its ultimate essence, does not merely end with physical death. It gloriously transforms. The soul, an eternal and boundless entity, is forever learning, forever growing, and forever irresistibly drawn toward its divine, originating source. Casey's profound readings tenderly remind us that the trials we inevitably face in life are not retributive punishments, but rather essential transformative lessons. Every moment of joy, every experience of hardship, every significant encounter we have, each carries an inherent and profound purpose. Our conscious choices, both large and small, ripple far beyond a single lifetime, intricately shaping the path of the soul across the vast tapestry of eternity. What truly imbues this expansive journey with meaning is the steadfast cultivation of love, dedicated service, profound compassion, and unwavering forgiveness. These are not merely optional virtues. They are in truth essential, powerful tools for authentic spiritual growth. Through their diligent practice, we gracefully lighten our karmic weight, accelerate our spiritual progress, and draw immeasurably closer to perfect unity with our Creator. Case also generously reassures us that no soul is ever truly lost or forgotten. While some may momentarily resist and others may experience delays, all are ultimately and tenderly guided by the same incandescent divine spark that resides eternally within their being. The profound pull toward God in the cosmic unfolding of time is utterly irresistible. Whether across a single cherished life or 100, each and every one of us is profoundly destined to awaken to our true, magnificent nature. Perhaps the most extraordinary gift of Casey's luminous teachings is the priceless gift of perspective. When we genuinely perceive life as a sacred classroom, suffering then becomes bearable, and the act of love transforms into an urgent, vital imperative. Each new day becomes a gracious invitation, an invitation to serve, to grow, and to remember with unwavering clarity who we truly are, eternal beings on the gentle, purposeful journey back to our cherished spiritual home. And so, we lovingly come full circle. Death, in this enlightened understanding, is not a fearsome end, but rather a magnificent doorway. Beyond it lies deep reflection, meaningful choice, and the radiant promise of countless new beginnings. Above all, it cradles the certain knowledge that our souls are never truly alone, and that the unwavering light of divine love will always gently guide us back to our true, originating source. In the profound quiet beyond death, when the earthly body is lovingly laid aside, the eternal soul beautifully awakens to its true, ancestral home. It remembers what was long forgotten and sees with boundless clarity what was previously hidden. Each and every step of our sacred journey, every poignant loss, every triumphant gain, every profound act of love, none of it was ever wasted. Instead, it was meticulously shaping us, gracefully refining us, and lovingly preparing us for the advent of an even greater, more radiant light. Edgar Cayce's profound vision was not one to instill fear, but one of boundless hope. He powerfully showed us that death is not a forbidding wall, but an expansive, transformative passage. That every soul, no matter how burdened it may seem, lovingly carries within its core a vibrant spark of the divine, and that this divine spark can never, ever be extinguished. So we courageously walk on, through lifetimes, through countless lessons, through enduring love, always drawn, irrevocably, toward the benevolent source that first called us into being. The journey is indeed long, but the promise, oh the promise, is utterly sure. In the glorious end, every soul faithfully finds its way home.